7 underrated foods for fat loss, in my opinion. Sean here from Fit Fusion Brotherhood. There are some foods that are synonymous with being fat loss foods. We're talking chicken breast, egg whites, protein powder, tuna. I'm not going to include those in this list because they're not really underrated. Yes, they're great. They're tried, tested, and true, but they're not underrated. So I'm going to give you 7 underrated foods, at least in my opinion, that really help with fat loss. And I'm going to give you a reason behind, at least one reason behind why I think they're underrated and why you should incorporate them into your fat loss routine. Number 1 is the baked potato, or any sort of potato for the matter. As long as you're not adding a ton of oil, butter, and all the stuffings that you would get in a baked potato that's like fully loaded. But there's a few reasons for this. So I don't know about you, but I've done the whole low or no carb thing before. It works just fine, no better or worse than other diet methods. But I find that when I'm going super low carb, I'm hungry all the time, I'm grouchy, my energy levels at the gym are not as good. So I tend to prefer not dropping my carbs super low. Now, the problem with a lot of starchy carbs is that you can eat a lot of them. You don't get a ton of nutritional value, and it's very difficult to fit in your protein and calories, but the baked potato is the exception in my opinion. So first of all, you get a lot of nutrient density, so there are a lot of good vitamins and minerals in a baked potato. You get your fiber, and probably most important, you get way more food volume from a baked potato than you would from rice or bread or noodles or pasta, just because of the amount of food that you can eat per calorie is going to be much better for a potato compared to those other foods. So for me personally, since I don't like dropping my carbs, I can still have a baked potato, enjoy those starchy carbs without going crazy on the calories. It's going to help fill me up, and there's some fiber in it as well. So the first one is a baked potato. Number 2, this one is relatively obvious, pickles. So pickles, more so of a snack, of course, and the reason these are so underrated when it comes to fat loss is because there really aren't any or many calories at all in pickles. So for me, it's one of those times where if I'm feeling hungry or if I'm getting a craving, I can just go to the fridge, grab a couple pickles, fight that craving a little bit, and I feel a lot better. So it's not that you're going to get a ton of nutrition from them, although they are relatively healthy, minus the sodium and the salt content. But honestly, pickles are a great additional snack if you are done with your calories through the day but still feeling hungry, because they're pretty much calorie negligent. So number 3 is not a food, and it's not even something that I would necessarily characterize as healthy, but it is something that I really enjoy during a fat loss phase, and that's almond milk. So for me, it's as simple as almond milk makes protein shakes taste a lot better than they otherwise would with just water. And if you get the unsweetened kind, the calories are super low and it tastes great. So you can get a much better tasting protein shake with almond milk without really adding many additional calories. Now, it's not for everyone, so if you don't like it, by all means skip it. But if you're one of those people who just doesn't like protein shakes, add some almond milk, super versatile, and it tastes great. The next one, also a little bit of a surprise here. So number 4 will be steak, especially lean cuts of steak. So I'm not talking about really fatty cuts like ribeye or filet mignon, but something that's relatively lean. And there's a few reasons why I find steak underrated. Now, first, we all know that steak is higher in calories than most lean protein sources. So when we think of protein sources like meat, we're thinking turkey, we're thinking chicken, we're thinking even pork, where steak kind of the bottom of the totem pole there. But steak does have a few benefits. Number 1, there is a lot of protein, right? So you do get a lot of protein from steak. It helps you feel full, but there's also amino acids that you're going to get from steak that you can't get in a lot of those leaner meats. So if you're having nothing but egg whites and fish and chicken, you're probably missing out on some of these amino acids, especially if you're not supplementing with protein or amino acids. And then also you're going to get some creatine monohydrate from steak. So again, if you're supplementing with creatine, great, but it's almost always better to get any sort of supplements from the food source itself. So lean cuts of steak are going to help you feel full. You're going to feel great. It can also have an indirect relationship on your testosterone, which is super important when you're cutting fat as your testosterone levels go down. So it's not one of those things that I would recommend eating every day, but from once in a while, moderation wise, steak can be very underrated when it comes to fat loss. Number 5 is another surprising one because the calories are actually super high, and that's chickpeas. So chickpeas, in my opinion, are underrated because they are crazy high in fiber. And fiber is going to make you feel full for a very long time. So if you're eating in moderation something that's really high in fiber, like chickpeas, the chances of you getting cravings immediately after are going to be much lower. And we also know that your body doesn't absorb all of the calories from high fiber foods. You're going to excrete some of it. So 100 calories of fiber is not actually 100 calories that you're taking in. Now, there are some cultures that incorporate chickpeas in a different way where they become kind of like pastes or desserts and stuff like that. And that's a different story because then it becomes much easier to overeat. You're also combining it with other sources of fat or sugar and that kind of stuff. But if you're just talking about chickpeas as a supplemental vegetable, something that you're adding in, I think it's super underrated. You're going to feel full. You get a lot of fiber, which is so important when you're dropping fat and your fiber is probably lower. And in my opinion, it tastes great. Number 6, we have Smart Pop. This one also might be surprising because Smart Pop seems like a treat, like a snack. Now, it's important to distinguish the difference between Smart Pop and actual buttered popcorn, right? So we're not adding butter, we're not adding oil, we're just having the popcorn. The calories are actually really low here. You can have an entire bag of popcorn that's Smart Pop for relatively low calories, especially when you're comparing them to something like chips. So if you're one of those people that loves to eat chips and you can't find a good switcheroo for it, Smart Pop's probably going to be a great choice. So low calorie, guilt-free, and high fiber. So in my opinion, it's one of those just hidden gems that almost seems too good to be true, but it's really not. So Smart Pop, very underrated when it comes to fat loss. And then the final one here, number 7, I can't believe this is even controversial, but it's fruit. Fruit has been villainized for the past, I don't know how many years because of its sugar content. But it's important to realize that added sugar and natural sugars are two totally different things. Fruit is going to provide a ton of nutritional benefits and it's going to really help support your fat loss goals. So you get all of these vitamins, all of these minerals, all of these nutrients. You typically get a lot of fiber. There's a lot of water in them, so they help you feel full for longer. And they're super versatile. You can mix them with a Greek yogurt. You can mix them in a protein shake. You can have them on their own. In my opinion, fruit's just super underrated. They're villainized for absolutely no reason. If the worst thing that you have in your diet is fruit, you're doing something well. So there you have it. Those are in my opinion, 7 underrated foods when it comes to fat loss. Now, if you have some underrated foods for yourself, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments below. If you do like videos like this, please do us a huge favor, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.